Wow, I'm in Hollywood. I'm dying. I hate Hollywood. I want to go home. Well, I've been to Hollywood now, and I gotta say, I think it's a little overrated. I don't get it. There's a big, you walk and there's stars and there's people names on them. I never heard of them. Who's Walt Disney? He just rips off the big cartoons with his fake name. There's tourists everywhere clogging up the streets, and you got people walking around. So you know what? I'm in Hollywood. I'm gonna do what I do best. I want to play some games. Well, I was going to play some games, but I didn't bring anything. Well, I did bring my laptop, so I can play like EverQuest. Mike? What are you doing here? Oh man, just take it easy. No, what do you want from me? Look, if this is about that time that I threatened you and your family, please, please. Okay, apparently I got a game to review. Cool. I don't think this is real. As it turns out, the Reservoir Dogs game is very real. It was released for the PC, PS2, and Xbox in 2006, which is strange for a couple reasons. For one, the film came out in 1992, which means that there was a 14-year gap between the movie and the game finally coming out. If it was made back then, it might have been a Super Nintendo game. The other odd thing about it is that this is a PS2/Xbox/GameCube era game, which was already on its way out in 2006. I think most people know who Quentin Tarantino is already, so I'll just give a quick reminder for those who need it. Tarantino is a film writer/director who made his big debut with Reservoir Dogs in 1992. His movies are well known for being violent, vulgar, and controversial, with focus on both entertaining and engaging dialogue and some really over-the-top moments of action. Whether you're a big fan or just a casual moviegoer in general, chances are you've seen or at least heard of one of his films. His newest work being Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Just like me. Anyway, without any further ado, I'm gonna dive right into this game. The main screen just looks like a DVD menu showing off clips of the movie that you're about to watch, which I never understood personally. Why are they still trying to sell me on something that I already have in my possession? I made it to the menu screen. I think I'm gonna watch it, guys. You'll notice everything looks disgustingly forced stretched into widescreen, even though the game has a naturally full screen aspect ratio. So make sure to fix that in the display settings before starting. Right away, the game opens with the famous color naming scene, although things may feel a bit off with the characters. Okay, maybe not just a bit. I mean, Joe looks like the oldest baby in the world. Not only do the character models look nothing like the people from the movie, but none of the actors even provided their voices. Well, except for Michael Madsen, who reprises his role as Mr. Blonde and even allowed his likeness to be used in the game, a fact that's proudly advertised on the back of the box. Well, at least they got one of them. But we're not here to see some random voice actors do mediocre impersonations. We want to see the gameplay. Mr. Orange is taken to the iconic warehouse where the majority of the film takes place, which gives us a bit of a tutorial. I'm using a keyboard and mouse to play, so I'm sure you can imagine that standard shooter setup. You can aim, shoot, roll, and there's a number of different weapons to switch from if you can find them. Already you can tell that the physics in this game can be a little off at times. There's also wait, what's that sound? Oh my god. It's the sound of copyright. Yeah, it turns out this game uses the entire original soundtrack from the movie, which probably explains why they could only afford to get one of the original actors. Yeah, I guess the audio guys kinda took most of the budget there. Okay, now that that's taken care of, I can show you the Bullet Festival, which is a special move you can use if your adrenaline meter is full. This is pretty cool, but at the same time it feels really out of place for some reason. I don't know, I guess I just can't imagine a Matrix type action sequence playing out in a Tarantino movie. After this, the other characters return to teach you more of the game's mechanics, including how to take hostages, force cops to retreat, and get civilians to do actions for you, like open up bank vaults. There's even this cool little cover and fire tutorial which includes you squaring off against the other members of Joe's crew, each using paintball bullet colors that match their respective code names. It's really funny imagining the characters from the movie going through all this trouble just to teach Mr. Orange the ropes. It's pretty fan-fiction-y. To be fair though, the characters' new dialogue does sound like something that they might say.
If you're so inclined, you can try out some of that commando shit. Cops are easily confused if you're rolling about.
And I like hearing their unique reactions to being hit.
Oh, you dick! Son of a bitch!
Careful, kid.
Yeah, the voices are kinda off, but the tone is pretty close.
Freeze, motherfuckers!
No, please.
Up against the wall. Freeze, motherfuckers!
No, please.
After this, we cut to the scene of Mr. White and a gravely injured Mr. Orange listening to Mr. Pink panic over the botched jewelry heist.
I don't think we got set up. I know we got set up. I mean, really, seriously.
Of course, in the movie, most of the time is spent in the warehouse while the consequences of their failed robbery unravel, with the occasional flashback showing the characters either preparing for said robbery or moments after everything went wrong. While the movie cleverly cuts out what would be the main focus of any other heist film, the game shows us everything. In fact, we get to play through it ourselves. Using the skills we learned earlier, we play as Mr. Blue as he attempts to get out of this snafu. This is actually pretty interesting as we barely see any of this character in the movie and we're only given a brief explanation on his unfortunate fate.
Mr. Blue is dead?
Dead as Dillinger.
Police have already arrived at the building, so your goal here is to get out, with an optional side mission of finding these blueprints. I don't know why these blueprints are so important, but they're in like every mission. And I guess they unlock concept art or something, whatever. The gameplay feels responsive and fair for the most part, but the real distinct feature here depends on how you decide to play. If you want, you can be a calm and collected professional who uses hostages and threatening words to get past cops without too much violence. On the other hand, you can be a complete run-and-gun psycho who blasts away anyone in your path as you make your escape. You can complete the mission using whichever method you prefer, but the game will be sure to keep track of your actions with the story rating after each chapter you complete. This may seem like a small extra detail, but it'll be important to keep this in mind later. After this, we get that iconic slow walk opening to the movie with the little green bag playing in the background, which I'm gonna have to mute because copyright. Sure, it looks like a bunch of nerds plus Michael Madsen cosplaying as the Reservoir Dogs at Comic-Con or something, but it's still nice to see. The next mission shows us another moment that doesn't exist in the film, with the driving segment that takes place before the heist. Here you have to— oh my god. What? Okay, this is ridiculous. I was willing to look past the nonsensical paintball training scene, but why are the secretive criminals who are in the middle of planning a big heist recklessly racing each other in broad daylight? You even have the option to fire your gun at other cars, and a nitrous boost. Imagine if Joe found out that they were doing this. He already gets pissy about them arguing over code names. You know what though? That's fine, because this level is actually pretty fun. Once again, you're playing as Mr. Blue, with your goal here to beat Mr. Brown to the destination. Meanwhile, Michael Madsen and not Steve Buscemi are trading stories in the back seat.
The firehouse, this motherfucker has a brilliant idea. One evening, he lit himself on fire. That's right.
They kind of sound like first draft Tarantino outtakes, but they're entertaining enough. We also have Hooked on a Feeling playing on the radio during all this. Yeah, that song did exist before Guardians of the Galaxy. Which reminds me, I should probably turn down the copyright. Be a safe, careful driver, or be a hot-headed maniac. Either way, just reach the goal before Mr. Brown, and you've completed this mission. After that, we get another scene from the movie, and then another third-person shooter mission. This time, seeing you play as Mr. Pink as he fights to escape the heist gone wrong. It's pretty much the same exact thing you had to do with Mr. Blue, but considerably longer, with Pink traveling outside and through many other buildings. Although you're free to play and progress however you like, the safest strategy I could find was constantly switching from hostage to hostage as you evade the police. The only annoying part about this is that you have to hit the hostage to convince certain cops to drop their guns. And even when they're not doing that, the hostages you take will eventually get so annoyed that they'll refuse to listen to you any longer.
Lucky we got more important. I can't go on.
Can you imagine that? Some armed criminal has a gun to your head, and you go along with him for a while, but then you stop because you simply don't feel like it?
Alright, move it!
That's it. We're done here.
Move it, asshole!
This ends right here.
I'm so bored. I don't want to be a hostage anymore. Wow, yeah, that's a smart way to act in front of the dangerous dude with the gun. After this, we get another cutscene, then we do the same thing again with Mr. White. Oh boy. Luckily, his escape segment is a lot shorter than Pink's, and afterwards we get another fun driving part. This time your goal isn't necessarily to be quick, but instead to reach the warehouse without taking too many bumps, whether it be from crashing into walls or the pursuing cop cars. Each hit you take drains some of Orange's life, who's already bleeding out pretty badly in the back seat. Not only is this part entertaining, you can't even get mad if you lose because it's pretty funny when it happens. After this, there's, you guessed it, another heist escape scene. This time following Blonde as he makes his way through a mall. I don't really have much else to say here. By this point, you'll see the game fall into a pattern. It'll rotate between a hostage/shooting mission to a driving segment, and then cutscenes from the film in between. The driving parts seem to get more fun every time, with new challenges presented with each one, such as Blonde having to stay above a certain speed limit so the cop in his trunk won't escape, or Brown needing to drive a certain distance before his vision gets completely obscured with blood. They honestly feel like rewards for making it through the much less exciting shooting segments. Sure, the locations and environment is always new, which is nice, but it just feels monotonous doing the same thing over and over. Grab a hostage, get past some cops, get a new hostage, kill some guys here and there. There's too many cops, so you gotta keep knocking out other cops while you grab the other cop, and then you knock out that cop while you grab another cop. It just starts to feel like menial labor after a while instead of playing a video game. Sometimes I'd get so bored I'd just start shooting everyone to progress faster, but then the cops will just all unload on you, even if you have a hostage in hand, making you have to start over and forcing you to slowly take your time. Suddenly it doesn't feel like you have that much freedom to play anymore. The last thing to really bring up is the final mission, which follows up on Mr. Blue's situation at the end of the first mission, kind of bringing the game into a full circle. It's very brief, but intense, shoving you out in the open with a bunch of heavily armed cops. Even if you manage to grab a hostage, it doesn't make things any easier. But if you manage to make it through, you're treated with Mr. Blue's normally unseen final moments. He makes his way to the front of an empty movie theater just as some old black and white film comes to its end, and he kinda just accepts his fate as he's gunned down. Yeah, I'd say that's a little badass. After this, the final scene of the movie plays, and then during the credits we get another little bonus. Now, if you remember from the film, Mr. Pink is the only one who seems to make it out alive, diamonds in hand, though we don't know exactly what happens to him after he leaves the warehouse. The game, however, decides to show you. Pink attempts a daring escape with the diamonds, but he's just barely apprehended by the police. Or Pink enters into a shootout with the police and is taken out by a cop. Or Pink manages to sneakily avoid the police altogether, and then he actually escapes with an abandoned cop car. It all depends on what your overall story ranking was by the end of the game. Yeah, remember that? Turned out it was significant after all. Play like a psycho, Mr. Pink gets killed. Play like a professional, Mr. Pink gets away with the diamonds. So, everyone who ever argued about what happened to Mr. Pink at the end of Reservoir Dogs, now you have 3 endings to debate for which is canon. Yeah, good luck with that. And that was Reservoir Dogs the game. To wrap things up, I think it's a very interesting idea. The whole aspect of getting to play parts of the movie that you don't see. You get to see some conclusions to characters that weren't in the movie. Although you could argue that that takes away some of the artistic value of the movie, but it's whatever. Think of it as like extra stuff. Besides that, the gameplay itself played fine enough, although the run-and-gun segments, or the hostage segments, depending on how you played, did get a bit monotonous over time. The most entertaining part of the game to me were probably the driving segments, especially how they change up the challenges and the wind conditions for each of them. I'll be honest, if this was any generic shooter game, I probably wouldn't give it much mind. It's just the fact that it's the Reservoir Dogs that gives it this strange novelty. It's a Tarantino movie as a game, which the fact that it exists is just strange in general. If you feel like you want to check it out, maybe you're a huge Reservoir Dogs fan, then check it out. But I'm not going to push anyone to go out and look for this. It didn't blow my lid off or anything. Anyway, that was my review. I am in Hollywood. So, I'll see you guys next time. I'm dying! I hate Hollywood! I want to go home!
Oh.